Hi there, and welcome to Sarge Notes. My name's Paul Sargent. Today we're going to take a look at the time of unification, specifically in Germany and in Italy. And it's a story that takes us back to the 1848 revolutions. What we saw in 1848 was the complete failure of the idea of Romanticism. This idea that people are going to come to the ramparts, that they're going to join in a movement just because they have this real fervor to do it, and that everyone's going to kind of dive in and make the whole thing happen, had utterly failed. After 1848, those people who want unification in Italy and Germany embark on a new quest to get unification, and that is called realism. Today's episode is about how those two unifications actually happened. It's a complicated story, but it's one that's very important to understand in modern Europe. And so here we go with unification. Now, in order to understand unification, we have to understand one key historical term, Realpolitik. And Realpolitik is all about using practical means to get to your objectives. It almost turns into an ends justifies the means kind of thing. If your goal is to unify your country, then the best way to do that is to have a very concrete, step-by-step plan that pulls the entire country together, forces everyone into a situation where they have to accept the unity, and then creates a unified country. So let's take a look first at Italy and how they unified. Italy and their unification movement. And the idea of Realpolitik really kind of is the descendant of the Machiavellian ideas that were put forth during the Renaissance. And initially, those ideas were that if we were to unify Italy, Italy had to be unified behind one strong ruler. The architect of Italian unification was a guy named Count Cavour. And Count Cavour was second in charge in the only really independent area of Italy known as Piedmont. He embarked on really a three-step plan for unifying Italy. Step number one is to create a strong state to start with. Not only did he have a legitimate ruler in a guy named Victor Emmanuel, but he also worked to solidify the state. He wanted to make Piedmont a stronger and more stable place than all of those areas around them in Italy. And so he built roads, built canals, and tried to make the economy as good as it could and make this area as appealing as possible to other areas for unification. Cavour, however, was a realist. He knew that there was absolutely no way that the tiny state of Piedmont was going to be able to take over all of these areas of Italy, especially since France and Austria were really exerting control over those areas. And so he did the next step, which was to find allies and unify the North. Now, how did he find some allies? Well, he goes and he joins up in the Crimean War in the fight against Russia. And by doing that, gets some concessions from France. Now, France is a big, powerful country, and they're being run by a guy named Napoleon III, and so Cavour makes some agreements with him. And really, the agreements went something like this. If you back us up in our war of independence from Austria, then we'll give you some areas that you really want. And there were two areas that they gave up, the area of Savoy and the area of Nice. And with those agreements in place, they embarked on a war with Austria. Now, the Austrian War started off real well, but Napoleon III, it turned out, really didn't have the appetite for war. And so he pulled out quickly from the war with Austria, and they were left to kind of fend for themselves. So Cavour made peace treaty with them and got some areas in the north out of this. Now, specific territorial things are not important for you to know for the AP exam. Understand that after winning, or somewhat winning, a war with Austria, Piedmont became a whole lot more attractive to other areas of the north, who gradually started joining them and to create a larger kingdom of Italy in the north. Step number two was almost an unforeseen accident. There was a guy named Giuseppe Garibaldi who still was driven by those romantic ideals that drove guys like Mazzini to try and push for Italian unification. And he and a band of guys he called the Red Shirts, because they wore red shirts, decided to take off and sail down to Sicily and try their hand at conquering the south of Italy. Well, it turns out they were incredibly successful, and they toppled the kingdom of the two Sicilies, and they almost made their way to Rome. And as they were approaching Rome, Cavour stepped in. He realized that Rome was the special protectorate of France. There's a Catholic connection there. And he didn't want France being turned against a newly unified Italy. And so he asked Garibaldi to stop. And Garibaldi did. He simply stopped taking over. So, very easily, the South and the North were joined into the Kingdom of Italy. And Victor Emmanuel I was declared the King of Italy. But there was a problem. There were two places that still held out. Venice on the eastern coast of Italy, and Rome, held by the Pope and the heart and emotional center of the country. So the third and final phase was to get these remaining territories back in. Victor Emmanuel is named King of Italy in 1861. By 1866, Venice joins the new Kingdom of Italy. And then in 1871, when Prussia is attacking France, and France has to pull its troops out of Rome, all of Italy sees their chance. They invade Rome, they take over, and they make the Pope a virtual prisoner in his own home. This will turn the Pope against the Italian state for a number of decades. In fact, it won't be until Mussolini makes a deal with the Pope that this is all over. Until then, the official line of the Pope is that good Catholics should not support the nation of Italy. But good Catholics or not, Italy was unified. So by 1871, there's a completely unified Italy. Until next time, thanks for watching.